Hi, I'm Marco, and welcome to Performance Hypnotherapy. So what causes anxiety? Well, as alluded to previously, anxiety is a natural response to a perceived threatening situation of some sort. Psychologists say that people who have anxiety tend to have what is called a low risk tolerance. So whereas someone is comfortable with going hang gliding off a cliff, another person who has a low risk tolerance will be uncomfortable with going for a walk down the street. That then tends to promote, unfortunately, people desiring to keep things comfortably familiar rather than going out into life, into the unknowns of life. And although that might sound good, keeping things routine, it also then tends to promote a need to control things, to keep things the way you want them. And a need to control the external circumstances is not possible. And it happens at the expense of focusing on an effective internal response to the inevitable changing external circumstances of life. And if you do focus on the effective internal response, you build that muscle, you strengthen that skill, you get better at it. And so then you can go out into more and more ambiguous or unknown external circumstances with greater confidence and greater trust. So it works reciprocally. But if we have a need to control the external circumstances, we don't receive, or we don't give ourselves the opportunity of developing that muscle of an effective internal response, which then becomes a huge problem if we want to grow in life. So what are some common examples of anxiety? The perfectionist is a classic example. Seeking to make things perfect before being happy with them, before being satisfied with them, or before producing them is a classic example. The problem with it, of course, is that the person who does this will constantly be disappointed, because by the very fact that we are human beings means that we are imperfect. And so seeking and striving to do so will lead us to disappointment. There is a correlation, of course, with being perfectionistic and achieving high. However, far more often than not, it leads to disappointment and demotivation. Learning how to want to have high standards and controlling and regulating your emotional state is key, a key balance to understand. And the distinction is, of course, knowing what you do control and what you don't control for a perfectionist is a very important distinction to make. Another common example is social phobia, or being anxious in social situations. In fact, this is the most common type of anxiety. And so a person who experiences this will, when there is a social event, will start to have generally a vision or an imagined fear of them saying or doing something silly in front of other people, and then other people judging them. And of course, the key distinction to make for someone who has this experience is distinguishing between what affects them personally and what is actually personal. So knowing if something actually is personally against them or just is affecting them personally because of their own imagined fear. Another common example is the warrior. So someone who's always on guard and vigilant and double checking, triple checking things before they can move on with their life. And the trouble with this style of anxiety, of course, is that you're not actually living life. You're not actually in life. You're constantly in your head. And someone once said that life is what happens between making plans. And I think that has a lot of truth to it, because it's when we're completely relaxed, completely at ease, just going with the flow, that we're living. We do need to make plans, of course, but we can't be planning the whole day. We need a time to live as well. So, and a key distinction, of course, for this person is knowing when to trust their feelings and knowing when to override them. A key distinction for all these people is learning to let go. Now, it may sound easier said than done, but learning to let go is about learning effective risk assessment and trusting your personal resourcefulness for dealing with risks. Again, it sounds easier said than done. And one of the reasons for that is, first of all, not being aware of the processes which are going on in our mind, which effective psychotherapy teaches. And the second reason for that is that we need a context to allow that change to happen. Hypnosis is a fantastic context for that change to happen, because we become relaxed and more readily and easily accept those psychotherapeutic messages, what are called cognitive processes. We are able to alter those cognitive processes and notice some things that were missing and tweak and change just a little bit the things which are not serving us so they can start to serve us. Having the context to change that is invaluable for all human beings. There are other ways to do that, of course, as well. One of the ways is through experience, going out and doing things, for example, that you don't feel comfortable with if you have a low risk tolerance, just a little bit, just enough so that you can extend yourself. But often it's difficult for people to do that. The context of hypnosis is, according to many of the world leading experts in psychotherapy, the most effective context in order for change to happen. I hope you've enjoyed this video. The next video will be on what are some of the strategies and ways that we can free ourselves from anxiety. Thank you for listening, and I hope you found value in this video.